All right, so we're diving into the AI news again. This time we're looking at everything that popped up on April 9th, 2025, and there's a lot to cover.
Yeah, it feels like every day brings another wave of breakthroughs and announcements. It's hard to keep up.
Absolutely. But that's why we're here, right? To try to sift through the noise and figure out what really matters. And I think today we're seeing some really interesting trends emerge.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. We've got this movement towards open source tools and models becoming more powerful. And at the same time, these proprietary systems are getting incredibly efficient and specialized. It's an exciting time to be following AI.
For sure. And then underneath all that, there are these fundamental explorations happening in the architecture of these systems, which might not make headlines now, but could have massive implications down the road.
Right. So where do you want to jump in first? What caught your eye in the news?
Well, I think the release of DeepCoder 14b is a pretty big deal. Another large language model, sure, but the fact that it's fully open source changes the game.
I totally agree. It's not just the model itself either, right? They've released the data set, the training code, the whole recipe.
Exactly. That's huge for transparency and collaboration in the research community.
Absolutely. And think about it from the perspective of someone who wants to learn, educators, students, even just AI enthusiasts. Now they have the blueprints and ingredients to really see how this thing ticks.
It's like the difference between being handed the finished meal versus getting the cookbook and learning to make it yourself.
That's a great analogy. And that kind of democratized access is what can lead to faster innovation because more people can understand, tinker, and build upon this knowledge.
Right. And speaking of innovation, it seems DeepCoder is no slouch when it comes to performance either. Even with only 14 billion parameters, it's holding its own against some of the heavy hitters from OpenAI.
Yeah, that's the thing. It achieved a pretty respectable score of 60.6% on LiveCodeBench and 1936 on CodeForces, putting it in a similar ballpark to OpenAI's o3 Mini and even o1 in some cases.
Which begs the question, do we always need these massive proprietary models to achieve cutting-edge results? Maybe not.
It's a really interesting question. And the low training cost of DeepCoder, around $27,000, only adds fuel to that fire.
Oh, yeah, especially when you compare that to the, shall we say, rumored training costs of some of the bigger models out there.
Right. Suddenly, developing sophisticated AI starts to feel a lot more attainable. And the fact that they used an open source reinforcement learning framework from ByteDance is pretty cool.
So reinforcement learning, for folks who might not be familiar, it's like training a dog with treats. You reward the model for good behavior, penalize it for bad behavior, and it figures out how to maximize those rewards.
Exactly. It's a powerful approach for training AI to make decisions and solve problems. But, I did see some muted reactions to DeepCoder online. Some people were comparing it to o3 Mini, saying it's not really a big leap forward.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I think it highlights the high bar that's been set in the field. We're seeing so many impressive models released that maybe the wow factor is diminished a bit.
Right. And to stand out in a crowded market, you need to offer something truly unique, whether it's a significant performance advantage, a killer new feature, or a compelling narrative that captures people's attention.
Totally. But open source models like DeepCoder still have a crucial role to play in pushing the field forward, especially in terms of accessibility and transparency.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another exciting development in the realm of open access, Moonshot AI's Kimi VL A3B.
Okay, this one's a mouthful, but it's a multimodal model with a massive 128K context window. What does that even mean in layman's terms?
So think of a context window as the amount of information a model can keep in its working memory at once. And 128,000 tokens, that's enormous.
Like, how much are we talking?
To put it in perspective, an entire book might be around 100,000 words, which could translate to a similar number of tokens depending on how the text is broken down.
So this model can essentially read and understand a whole book's worth of information at once.
Yeah, potentially, yeah. And not just text either. It's multimodal, so it can handle images, audio, maybe even video. The possibilities are mind-blowing when you start thinking about summarizing complex documents or understanding visual narratives.
And it's all under the MIT license, so wide open for anyone to use and build upon.
Exactly. It's another win for open source AI and a sign that even smaller players can make big waves.
And they're making some bold claims about its performance, too. Supposedly, it's outperforming GPT-4o on benchmarks that combine vision and math.
Yeah, that's a big deal. It shows just how rapidly multimodal AI is advancing. It's no longer just about understanding text or images in isolation, but about integrating different modalities to create a more holistic understanding of the world.
And the fact that models like Kimi VLA3B are readily available on platforms like Hugging Face makes them incredibly accessible for developers to experiment with.
Definitely. This kind of open access lowers the barrier to entry for anyone wanting to build AI-powered applications. You don't need to be a Google or an OpenAI to get your hands on powerful tools.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about generative AI. Runway has announced Gen 4 Turbo for video generation, and they're touting some pretty impressive efficiency gains.
Oh yeah, 10 times better results than Gen 3 at the same price point. That's massive.
It screams a major leap forward in their algorithms or training process. We're talking about creating high-quality video content without breaking the bank on computing power.
Absolutely. And that could be a game changer for content creators of all kinds. Think about filmmakers, YouTubers, even businesses creating marketing materials. Suddenly, professional-looking video becomes much more accessible.
It's amazing to see how far video generation has come. We've gone from those clunky early attempts to incredibly realistic and controllable outputs. Gen 4 Turbo seems like another huge step in that evolution.
It really does. And speaking of high-quality generation, did you see the announcement about Google's Imagen 3?
Yeah, their latest and greatest text-to-image model. They're claiming it's their highest quality yet, and it's now available on Vertex AI.
That's interesting, the Vertex AI part. It suggests they're really targeting enterprise customers with this release.
Right. Vertex AI is Google Cloud's machine learning platform, so this move makes those advanced generative capabilities available to businesses and developers who are building serious applications.
It makes sense, doesn't it? There's clearly a growing demand for high-quality image generation in all sorts of professional contexts.
And one feature of Imagen 3 that really jumped out at me was the easier removal of unwanted objects from generated images.
Yeah, that's a smart addition. It gives users more control over the final output, which is crucial for real-world applications. Imagine being able to quickly tweak an image without having to go back and regenerate the whole thing from scratch.
Exactly. It moves us away from just generating a single image and towards a more iterative and refined creative process.
I like that. And it ties into this broader trend of AI becoming more interactive and user-friendly.
Totally. Okay, last but not least, let's dive into some of the more technical stuff, the architectural developments that often fly under the radar. Google DeepMind is trying to patent the hierarchical perceiver architecture.
Now this is where things get really interesting. This is less about a specific product or capability and more about laying the groundwork for future breakthroughs.
Right, it's like looking under the hood of AI and seeing how the engine is being redesigned.
And the fact that DeepMind is seeking a patent on this suggests they see it as a crucial piece of technology. They're not just publishing a paper, they're trying to protect their intellectual property.
Which implies they think it has significant commercial potential down the line.
Right. And there's speculation that this hierarchical perceiver could be related to their work on ultra-long context lengths in Gemini.
Which makes sense, right? If you want to build a model that can reason and understand across vast amounts of information, you need an architecture that can handle those huge chunks of data efficiently.
Exactly. So maybe this patent is a defensive move, a way to secure their position in what's likely to be a very competitive area of research.
Fascinating. So if we zoom out and try to synthesize everything we've discussed, what's the big picture takeaway from all this AI news?
I think what stands out most is this multi-pronged approach to advancing AI that we're seeing. You've got open source efforts like DeepCoder and Kimi VLA3B, which are democratizing access to powerful tools. Then you've got companies like Runway and Google, who are pushing the boundaries of efficiency and quality in specific application areas. And underpinning all of this are these fundamental architectural explorations like the hierarchical perceiver, which could unlock entirely new capabilities in the future.
It really feels like we're in this incredibly dynamic phase of AI development where everything is evolving at lightning speed.
Exactly. And for anyone who wants to keep up and understand where this field is heading, it's important to pay attention to all these different threads, not just the latest flashy model release. Absolutely. It's about seeing how these seemingly disparate advancements are actually interconnected and how they're shaping the overall landscape.
And for me, one of the most exciting aspects is this interplay between open collaboration and proprietary innovation. It creates this kind of feedback loop that's propelling the field forward at an unprecedented rate. Totally. So there you have it, a deep dive into some of the most significant AI developments from April 9th, 2025. We've covered a lot of ground, from open source models to cutting-edge generative AI to the underlying architectural innovations that could define the future of this field. The pace of progress is truly breathtaking, and it leaves us with more questions than answers. What stands out most to you from all these developments? What sparks your curiosity about the potential applications of AI in your own life or work? Consider the implications of increasingly accessible AI, the continuous advancements in creative technologies, and the foundational research that could lead to entirely new possibilities. How will these pieces converge and reshape the very fabric of AI in the months and years to come? That's something to ponder as we continue to witness this incredible evolution unfold.